What if I told you that Turkey holds secrets so extraordinary, so breathtakingly beautiful, that they make the world's most famous destinations look ordinary? While millions flock to Istanbul's iconic landmarks, an entire country of impossible landscapes, ancient mysteries, and otherworldly wonders lies waiting just beyond the tourist trail. From underground cities that house 20,000 people to fairy tale valleys that seem carved by giants, from thermal pools that have healed emperors to rock formations that defy every law of physics. Turkey is not just a destination, it's a portal to another world entirely. Today, we're embarking on an epic journey through Turkey's most incredible hidden gems, places so spectacular they'll redefine everything you thought you knew about this ancient land. Prepare to discover why Turkey might just be the most underrated travel destination on Earth. Turkey sits at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, a bridge between civilizations that has witnessed the rise and fall of empires for over 4,000 years. This is where the Hittites built their first cities, where Alexander the Great conquered vast territories, where the Byzantine Empire flourished, and where the Ottoman sultans ruled over 3 continents, spanning 783,562 square kilometers, roughly the size of Texas. Turkey's landscape is a geological masterpiece sculpted by volcanic eruptions, tectonic shifts, and millions of years of erosion. From the Mediterranean coastline to the Black Sea shores, from the Anatolian Plateau to the Cappadocian valleys, this country contains more UNESCO World Heritage Sites than most entire continents. But here's what makes Turkey truly extraordinary. While tourists crowd into Istanbul's Grand Bazaar and Hagia Sophia, 99% of travelers never venture beyond the surface. They miss the underground cities deeper than skyscrapers are tall, the thermal terraces that look like frozen waterfalls, the ancient theaters carved into mountainsides, and the valleys where early Christians hid from Roman persecution in churches carved directly into rock faces. This is the Turkey that locals know but rarely share. A land where every valley holds a secret, every mountain conceals a wonder, and every ancient stone tells a story that will leave you speechless. Our journey begins in Cappadocia, a region so surreal it seems like it was designed by the gods themselves during a particularly creative moment. Located in central Turkey, this 100 square kilometer wonderland was formed by volcanic eruptions that occurred 60 million years ago, followed by millions of years of wind and water erosion that carved the landscape into something that belongs more in a fantasy novel than on Earth. The famous fairy chimneys. Towering rock formations that rise up to 40 meters high dot the landscape like ancient sentinels. But here's what most people don't know. These aren't just pretty rocks. Early Christians fleeing Roman persecution in the 4th century carved entire cities into these formations. They hollowed out churches, homes, storage rooms, and even stables, creating a 3-dimensional maze of interconnected tunnels and chambers. The Göreme Open Air Museum alone contains over 30 rock-carved churches, some decorated with frescoes so well preserved they look like they were painted yesterday. The Dark Church, or Karanlık Kilise, contains Byzantine artwork from the 11th century that rivals anything in the Vatican. Yet it sits hidden in a rock formation in the middle of nowhere. But the real magic happens at sunrise. Every morning, over 100 hot air balloons lift off simultaneously, creating a scene so spectacular that even the most jaded travelers find themselves moved to tears. Floating 1,000 feet above the fairy Chimneys as the sun paints the rocks in shades of gold, pink, and orange. It's an experience that redefines what's possible in travel. The underground cities of Cappadocia take this wonder to an entirely different level. Derinkuyu, the deepest of these subterranean marvels, plunges 85 meters underground. That's deeper than the Statue of Liberty is tall. This isn't just a cave. It's a complete city that once housed 20,000 people across 18 levels. It contained everything needed for extended underground living: churches, schools, stables, wine cellars, and even a sophisticated ventilation system with over 15,000 air shafts. Imagine the engineering genius required to create such a place without modern tools. The residents carved narrow tunnels that could be blocked by rolling stones, created communication systems between levels, and even built underground rivers for fresh water. During times of invasion, entire communities would disappear underground for months, living in complete secrecy while their enemies searched the surface in vain. Three hours southwest of Cappadocia lies one of Turkey's most photographed yet least understood wonders, Pamukkale, which translates to Cotton Castle in Turkish. From a distance, this UNESCO World Heritage Site looks like a massive white cliff covered in snow, until you realize it's actually a series of terraced thermal pools filled with mineral-rich water that has been flowing for over 14,000 years. The science behind Pamukkale is as fascinating as its appearance. Hot springs heated by underground volcanic activity emerge from the earth at a constant 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, carrying dissolved calcium carbonate. As the water flows down the mountainside and cools, the calcium carbonate precipitates out, forming the brilliant white travertine terraces that give Pamukkale its otherworldly appearance. These aren't just pretty pools. They're natural healing centers that have attracted visitors for millennia. The ancient city of Hierapolis, built directly above the thermal springs, was founded in 190 BC specifically to take advantage of these healing waters. Roman emperors would travel hundreds of miles to bathe in these pools, believing they could cure everything from arthritis to heart disease. Modern science has actually validated many of these ancient beliefs. The mineral-rich waters contain calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and carbon dioxide, a combination that has proven therapeutic effects on skin conditions, circulation problems, and joint pain. The water maintains a perfect pH balance of 6, making it gentle enough for extended soaking yet mineral-rich enough to provide genuine health benefits. But here's what makes Pamukkale truly special. The pools are constantly changing. The calcium carbonate deposits continue to build, creating new formations while altering existing ones. What you see today is different from what visitors saw a decade ago, and it will be different again in another decade. You're witnessing a landscape in constant slow-motion transformation. The ancient theater of Hierapolis, carved into the hillside above the thermal pools, adds another layer of wonder to this site. With a capacity of 15,000 spectators, it's one of the best-preserved Roman theaters in the world. Sitting in these ancient stone seats, looking out over the white terraces toward the Lycian Valley below, you're experiencing the same view that Roman citizens enjoyed 2,000 years ago. Turkey's Mediterranean coastline, known as the Turquoise Coast or Turkish Riviera, stretches for 1,600 kilometers of pristine beaches, hidden coves, and crystal-clear waters that rival anything in the Caribbean. But this isn't just another pretty coastline. It's a living museum of ancient civilizations, where every bay holds ruins and every headland conceals a story. The ancient city of Myra, near the modern town of Nemrut, showcases the incredible engineering skills of the Lycian civilization. The Lycians, who ruled this coast from 1200 BC to 300 BC, carved elaborate tombs directly into cliff faces, some rising 100 meters above the valley floor. These weren't simple burial chambers. They were architectural masterpieces, complete with detailed facades that mimicked the wooden houses of the living. The most spectacular of these is the tomb of Amyntas, carved into a sheer rock face and decorated with Ionic columns and intricate reliefs. What makes this even more remarkable is that the Lycians accomplished this feat using only bronze tools and human labor. They would suspend workers on ropes from the cliff tops, allowing them to carve these monuments while hanging hundreds of feet above the ground. But the Turquoise Coast's most magical experience might be the sunken city of Cappadocia. Due to earthquakes in the 2nd century AD, an entire Lycian settlement slipped beneath the Mediterranean, creating Turkey's own Atlantis. Today, you can kayak or take boat tours over the crystal-clear waters and peer down at ancient staircases, building foundations, and even amphitheater seats lying perfectly preserved on the seafloor. The water here is so clear, with visibility often exceeding 30 meters, that the ruins appear to be just beneath the surface, creating an almost surreal experience. Swimming above a 2,000-year-old civilization, you can see ancient pottery shards, marble columns, and stone walls that once housed thriving communities. Butterfly Valley, accessible only by boat or a challenging hiking trail, represents the coast's natural wonders. This narrow gorge, carved by a seasonal waterfall, is home to over 100 species of butterflies, including the rare Jersey tiger butterfly that exists nowhere else in Turkey. The valley's microclimate, protected by 350-meter-high cliffs, creates a tropical paradise where banana trees and oleander bushes thrive just meters from the Mediterranean. In southeastern Turkey, at an altitude of 2,134 meters, sits one of archaeology's greatest mysteries, Mount Nemrut. This isn't just a mountain. It's a man-made monument so ambitious it took 2,000 years to understand what it actually was. King Antiochus I of Commagene, ruling a small kingdom between the Roman and Parthian empires in the 1st century BC, decided to build himself the ultimate tomb. But this wasn't going to be just any burial site. It was going to be a monument that would make him equal to the gods themselves. The king ordered his workers to pile 150,000 tons of rock into a 50-meter-high artificial peak, beneath which his tomb supposedly lies, though archaeologists have never found the actual burial chamber. Around this massive tumulus, he placed enormous stone heads of gods and kings, each weighing up to 6 tons and standing 8 to 10 meters tall. These aren't just big statues. They're masterpieces of Hellenistic art that blend Greek, Persian, and Armenian influences in ways never seen before or since. The head of Zeus Oromasdes combines the Greek king of gods with the Persian deity Ahura Mazda. The head of Apollo Mithras Helios Hermes represents 4 different deities merged into one. These sculptures demonstrate a level of cultural synthesis that was revolutionary for its time. But here's what makes Mount Nemrut truly extraordinary: the sunrise and sunset experiences. The site is positioned so that twice daily, the sun aligns perfectly with the giant heads, creating a light show that transforms the ancient faces from cold stone into warm, almost living presences. At sunrise, the heads emerge from darkness like ancient gods awakening, while at sunset they seem to slowly return to eternal slumber. The logistics of reaching Mount Nemrut add to its mystique. The site is accessible only during certain months due to snow, and even then visitors must make the final approach on foot, climbing rocky paths in darkness to reach the summit before dawn. Standing among these colossal heads as the sun rises over the Mesopotamian plains below, you're experiencing one of the most profound archaeological sites on Earth. Recent archaeological work has revealed that the entire mountain is actually a complex of terraces, altars, and processional ways. Ground-penetrating radar has detected chambers and passages within the artificial peak, suggesting that Antiochus's tomb might still be waiting to be discovered, along with whatever treasures he took with him into the afterlife. While we touched on Derinkuyu earlier, the full scope of Cappadocia's underground cities deserves deeper exploration. This isn't just one or two caves. Archaeologists have discovered over 200 underground settlements in the region, with new ones still being found today. Together, they represent the largest underground city complex in the world. Pamukkale, the widest of these subterranean cities, spreads across an area equivalent to several city blocks and descends 8 levels underground. What makes it remarkable isn't just its size, but its sophistication. The city includes separate areas for different functions: residential quarters, storage areas, stables, churches, meeting halls, and even schools. The ventilation system alone is an engineering marvel. Over 15,000 ventilation shafts, some reaching depths of 85 meters, provide fresh air to every level of the city. The system is so well designed that even today, 1,500 years after its construction, air circulates perfectly throughout the complex. The deepest shafts also served as wells, providing fresh water to the underground residents. But perhaps most impressive are the security features. The cities were designed like ancient panic rooms, with narrow tunnels that could be blocked by rolling circular stones weighing up to 500 kilograms. These stones, called millstones, could only be moved from the inside, making it impossible for invaders to follow residents underground. Communication holes between levels allowed defenders to coordinate their movements and share information about threats above ground. Archaeological evidence suggests these cities weren't just emergency shelters. They were permanent communities. Families lived underground for months at a time, maintaining livestock, producing wine, and even conducting religious services. The churches carved into the deepest levels contain frescoes and altars that rival anything found in surface churches of the same period. Recent discoveries have revealed that many of these underground cities are connected by tunnels stretching for kilometers. The tunnel between Derinkuyu and Pamukkale alone is 9 kilometers long and large enough for people to walk upright. This suggests that the entire region was once connected by a vast underground network, allowing people to travel between cities without ever appearing on the surface. On Turkey's eastern border with Armenia lies one of the world's most haunting archaeological sites, Ani, once known as the City of 1001 Churches. This medieval metropolis, now a ghost town on a windswept plateau, was once larger than Paris and more prosperous than Constantinople. At its peak in the 10th and 11th centuries, Ani was home to over 200,000 people and served as the capital of the Armenian kingdom of Bagratid. The city controlled crucial trade routes between Europe and Asia, making it one of the wealthiest cities in the medieval world. Merchants from as far away as India and Scandinavia came to trade in Ani's markets, bringing silk, spices, precious metals, and exotic goods. The city's churches represent some of the finest examples of Armenian architecture ever built. The Cathedral of Ani, completed in 1001 AD, pioneered architectural techniques that wouldn't appear in Western Europe for another century. Its pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and clustered columns influenced church design across the medieval world. But what makes Ani truly remarkable is its preservation. Unlike most medieval cities, which were built over and modernized through the centuries, Ani was abandoned in the 14th century and left untouched. Walking through its ruins today is like stepping into a perfectly preserved medieval city, complete with palaces, churches, defensive walls, and residential quarters. The city's defensive walls, stretching for 4.5 kilometers, are among the best preserved medieval fortifications in the world. Built from the local volcanic stone, these walls rise up to 20 meters high and include 36 towers and multiple gates. The engineering is so sophisticated that sections of the wall have survived earthquakes that destroyed more modern buildings in the region. The Church of the Holy Redeemer, though partially collapsed, still displays some of the most intricate stone carving ever achieved. The remaining walls show scenes from the Bible carved with such detail that individual facial expressions are clearly visible. The acoustic properties of the church are so perfect that a whisper at the altar can be heard clearly at the back of the nave. Perhaps most haunting is the Church of St. Gregory of Tigran-Honens, whose interior frescoes have survived 800 years of abandonment. These paintings depicting scenes from the life of Christ and various saints retain their original colors and detail, providing an unparalleled window into medieval Armenian art. Standing in Ani today, with the wind whistling through empty windows and doorways, you're experiencing one of archaeology's most poignant sights. This was once a city that rivaled Baghdad and Constantinople, where scholars debated philosophy, merchants traded goods from across the known world, and artists created masterpieces that influenced architecture across continents. Now it stands as a reminder of how even the greatest civilizations can vanish, leaving only stones to tell their stories. Turkey's Lycian Way, a 540-kilometer hiking trail along the Mediterranean coast, isn't just one of the world's great long-distance walks. It's a journey through 3,000 years of history. This ancient path, originally used by Lycian traders and Roman legions, connects over 20 ancient cities while passing through some of the most spectacular coastal scenery on Earth. The trail begins in Fethiye and ends in Antalya, but every kilometer reveals new wonders. You'll walk past Lycian sarcophagi that have stood for 2,400 years, their carved reliefs still sharp enough to read. You'll climb over mountain passes where ancient armies once marched, following stone-paved Roman roads that are still in better condition than many modern highways. The ancient city of Xanthos, the Lycian capital, showcases the sophistication of this ancient civilization. The Harpy tomb, dating to 480 BC, is decorated with reliefs showing mythological creatures carrying off the souls of the dead. The Nereid monument, reconstructed in the British Museum, was once a temple tomb that combined Greek architectural elements with Lycian burial traditions in ways that influenced monument design throughout the ancient world. But the Lycian Way isn't just about ancient ruins. It's about experiencing landscapes that have remained virtually unchanged for millennia. The trail passes through cedar forests where trees over 1,000 years old still grow, their massive trunks scarred by centuries of Mediterranean storms. You'll walk along beaches where loggerhead sea turtles have been nesting for thousands of years, following the same instincts that guided their ancestors when Lycian ships sailed these waters. The village of Olympos, accessible only on foot or by boat, represents the trail's perfect blend of ancient and natural wonders. Here, the ruins of a Roman city are slowly being reclaimed by the forest, with fig trees growing through ancient doorways and wild oleander blooming in former courtyards. Just above the ruins, the Chimera, eternal flames that have been burning for over 2,500 years, emerge from the rocky hillside, fed by natural gas seeping from underground. These flames inspired the ancient myth of the fire-breathing monster defeated by the hero Bellerophon riding the winged horse Pegasus. Sailors used the flames as a lighthouse, and the site became sacred to Hephaestus, the Greek god of fire. Today, you can still see these flames dancing from cracks in the rock, just as ancient travelers did over 2 millennia ago. Clinging to a sheer cliff face 1,200 meters above the Black Sea, Sumela Monastery looks like something that should exist only in fantasy novels. This Byzantine monastery, carved directly into the rock face of Mount Mela, has defied gravity and logic for over 1,600 years. Founded in 386 AD by 2 Greek monks who claimed the Virgin Mary appeared to them in a vision, Sumela became one of the most important pilgrimage sites in the Byzantine Empire. The monastery complex, built into a natural cave and extended outward with wooden galleries and stone chambers, housed up to 1,000 monks at its peak. The engineering required to build Sumela is staggering. Every stone, every piece of timber, every fresco pigment had to be carried up treacherous mountain paths and then somehow installed on a vertical cliff face. The main church, carved directly into the rock, contains frescoes that cover every surface. Walls, ceilings, and even the natural rock formations have been transformed into religious art. The monastery's library once contained over 1,000 manuscripts, including some of the oldest copies of Byzantine religious texts. The scriptorium, where monks copied and illuminated manuscripts, was positioned to catch the morning light streaming through the valley, providing perfect conditions for detailed work. But Sumela's most remarkable feature might be its water system. The monks engineered an aqueduct that carries mountain spring water through carved channels in the rock face, providing fresh water to every level of the monastery. This system still functions today, over 1,600 years after its construction. The monastery's defensive features are equally impressive. The only access is via a narrow path carved into the cliff face, easily defended by a few guards. Storage chambers carved deep into the rock could hold enough food and water to sustain the community during extended sieges. Hidden passages connect different levels of the monastery, allowing monks to move unseen throughout the complex. Standing on Sumela's wooden galleries, looking out over the Altındere Valley 1,200 meters below, you experience one of the most vertigo-inducing views in the world. The monastery seems to float in space, suspended between earth and sky, a testament to the faith and engineering skills of its builders. While Cappadocia is famous for its fairy chimneys, the formations at Pasabag, Monk's Valley, represent nature's most artistic achievement. These aren't just tall rocks. They're geological sculptures so perfectly formed they seem designed by a master artist. The three-headed fairy chimney, Pasabag's most famous formation, rises 20 meters into the sky and is topped by 3 separate caps of harder rock. The formation is so perfectly balanced that it seems to defy physics. Yet it has stood for millions of years, slowly carved by wind and water into its current impossible shape. What makes Pasabag unique is the variety of formations found in a relatively small area. Some fairy chimneys are tall and slender, like stone needles pointing toward the sky. Others are squat and mushroom-shaped, with caps much larger than their stems. Still others have been carved into complex multi-level structures that resemble abstract sculptures. Early Christian hermits recognized the artistic potential of these formations and carved churches, chapels, and living quarters directly into the rock. The Chapel of Saint Simeon, carved into a three-headed fairy chimney, contains frescoes from the 10th century that are among the best-preserved Byzantine art in Cappadocia. The geological process that created these formations is as fascinating as their appearance. Volcanic eruptions 60 million years ago covered the region with layers of ash and lava. Over time, these layers hardened into different types of rock. Some soft and easily eroded, others hard and resistant to weathering. As wind and water carved away the softer rock, the harder layers remained as protective caps, creating the distinctive mushroom shapes we see today. But the process isn't finished. The fairy chimneys are still being carved by natural forces, changing shape imperceptibly each year. Some formations that existed a century ago have collapsed, while new ones are slowly emerging from the surrounding landscape. You're witnessing a geological process that has been ongoing for millions of years and will continue for millions more. No exploration of Turkey's wonders would be complete without visiting Ephesus, one of the best-preserved ancient cities in the world. But this isn't just another collection of old ruins. Ephesus was once the second-largest city in the Roman Empire, home to over 250,000 people, and the site of one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The Temple of Artemis, which once stood in Ephesus, was 4 times larger than the Parthenon in Athens. This massive structure, with 127 columns each standing 18 meters tall, took 120 years to complete and was considered the most beautiful building in the ancient world. Though only foundations remain today, the scale of the ruins gives you some sense of the temple's former magnificence. But Ephesus's real wonder is its preservation. Walking down the marble-paved Curette Street, you're following the same path that St. Paul walked when he preached to the Ephesians. The street is lined with the remains of shops, houses, and public buildings that give you an incredibly detailed picture of daily life in a Roman city. The Library of Celsus, built in 117 AD, was the 3rd largest library in the ancient world, holding over 12,000 scrolls. The building's facade, reconstructed from original pieces, is one of the most photographed ancient structures in Turkey. But what makes it truly remarkable is its engineering. The building was constructed with a double wall system that protected the precious scrolls from humidity and temperature changes. The Great Theater of Ephesus, carved into the slope of Mount Pion, could hold 25,000 spectators, larger than many modern sports stadiums. The theater's acoustics are so perfect that a person speaking normally on the stage can be heard clearly in the highest seats, 30 meters above and 150 meters away. This acoustic perfection was achieved through careful mathematical calculations of angles and materials that modern engineers still study today. The terrace houses, sometimes called the houses of the rich, provide an unparalleled glimpse into how wealthy Romans lived. These multi-story homes, built into the hillside, contain elaborate mosaics, frescoes, and even central heating systems. The House of Love, named for its erotic frescoes, shows that Roman attitudes toward sexuality were far more open than many people realize. But perhaps Ephesus's most moving sight is the House of the Virgin Mary, where tradition holds that the mother of Jesus spent her final years. This small stone house hidden in the mountains above Ephesus has been a pilgrimage site for over 1,500 years. Whether or not you believe the tradition, standing in this peaceful spot, surrounded by pine forests and looking out over the Aegean Sea, provides a profound sense of connection to early Christian history. Above the white terraces of Pamukkale lies Hierapolis, one of the ancient world's most important spa destinations. But this wasn't just a place for relaxation. It was a complete wellness complex that pioneered many treatments still used in modern medicine. The ancient Romans believed that the thermal springs of Hierapolis could cure everything from arthritis to mental illness. They built an elaborate complex of baths, each designed for different therapeutic purposes. The sacred pool, where you can still swim today among fallen Roman columns, was reserved for the most serious medical treatments. Modern analysis has shown that the Romans weren't entirely wrong about the healing properties of these waters. The springs contain a unique combination of minerals: calcium, magnesium, sulfur, and carbon dioxide, that has proven therapeutic effects on circulation, skin conditions, and joint problems. The water's constant temperature of 35 degrees Celsius, 95 degrees Fahrenheit, is ideal for extended soaking, allowing the minerals to be absorbed through the skin. The plutonium, or gate to hell, was one of Hierapolis's most mysterious attractions. This small cave, from which toxic gases emerge, was considered a portal to the underworld. Priests would demonstrate their divine protection by entering the cave unharmed, while animals brought too close would collapse and die. Modern science has revealed that the cave emits carbon dioxide, which is heavier than air and creates a deadly layer near the ground, explaining why the priests, standing upright, survived while animals, closer to the ground, succumbed to the gas. The necropolis of Hierapolis, stretching for over 2 kilometers outside the ancient city, is one of the largest ancient cemeteries in the world. Over 1,200 tombs, representing every style of ancient burial from simple graves to elaborate mausoleums, tell the story of people who came to Hierapolis seeking healing but found death instead. The variety of tomb styles reflects the international nature of the city. People came here from across the Roman Empire, bringing their own burial traditions with them. In the heart of Anatolia lies Konya, the spiritual center of Turkey and home to one of the world's most mesmerizing religious traditions, the whirling dervishes. This isn't just a tourist performance. It's a 700-year-old mystical practice that represents one of humanity's most profound attempts to connect with the divine through movement. The tradition was founded by Jalal ad-Din Rumi, known simply as Rumi, one of history's greatest mystical poets. Rumi's tomb in Konya attracts over 2 million pilgrims annually, making it one of the most visited religious sites in the Islamic world. But Rumi wasn't just a religious figure. He was a revolutionary thinker who preached tolerance, love, and the unity of all religions at a time when such ideas were considered heretical. The whirling ceremony, called the Sema, is a form of active meditation designed to induce a trance-like state that allows the dervish to experience direct communion with God. The movements aren't random. Every gesture has symbolic meaning. The dervish's white robes represent death shrouds, symbolizing the ego's death. Their tall felt hats represent tombstones. As they whirl, their right hands point toward heaven to receive divine grace, while their left hands point toward earth to transmit that grace to humanity. The music that accompanies the ceremony is equally symbolic. The knee, reed flute, represents the human soul's longing for reunion with the divine. The rhythm of the drums represents the heartbeat of existence. As the ceremony progresses, the music becomes more intense, and the dervishes spin faster, entering deeper states of spiritual ecstasy. What makes the whirling dervishes truly remarkable is the physical skill required. The dervishes can spin continuously for up to 30 minutes without becoming dizzy or losing balance. This is achieved through years of training that teaches them to focus on a fixed point while their bodies rotate, a technique that prevents the inner ear from registering the spinning motion. The Mevlana Museum, built around Rumi's tomb, contains one of the world's most important collections of Islamic art and manuscripts. The museum's collection includes Rumi's original writings, some of the oldest Quran manuscripts in existence, and artifacts from the Ottoman court. But the most moving exhibit might be Rumi's tomb itself, covered in gold-embroidered cloth and surrounded by the tombs of his followers, creating a sense of spiritual continuity that spans 7 centuries. Carved into the walls of a dramatic gorge in central Turkey, the Ihlara Valley contains one of the world's most important collections of early Christian art. This 14-kilometer-long canyon, carved by the Melendez River, became a refuge for early Christians fleeing Roman persecution, and they transformed it into a vast outdoor monastery. Over 100 churches are carved into the valley's volcanic rock walls, some dating back to the 4th century AD. These aren't simple caves. They're sophisticated religious complexes with elaborate architectural details carved directly into the rock. The Church of the Serpent, named for a fresco depicting St. George slaying a dragon, contains some of the finest Byzantine art outside of Constantinople. What makes Ihlara Valley unique is the preservation of its frescoes. The dry climate and protection provided by the rock walls have kept these 1,600-year-old paintings in remarkable condition. The colors remain vivid, and details are so sharp that you can see individual facial expressions and clothing patterns. The iconography of these churches tells the story of early Christianity's development. The oldest churches contain simple geometric patterns and symbols, reflecting the early Christian reluctance to use human figures in religious art. Later churches show increasingly sophisticated representations of Christ, the Virgin Mary, and various saints, documenting the evolution of Christian artistic traditions. The Church of the Sandals gets its name from footprints carved into the floor, supposedly left by Christ during his ascension. The Church of the Hyacinth contains a unique fresco showing the Annunciation with the Virgin Mary depicted as a young girl spinning thread, a detail found nowhere else in Christian art. But Ihlara Valley wasn't just about churches. The Christians who lived here created an entire underground civilization. They carved homes, storage rooms, meeting halls, and even schools into the rock walls. A sophisticated system of tunnels connects different parts of the valley, allowing the Christian community to move unseen throughout their domain. The valley's natural beauty adds another dimension to its spiritual significance. The Melendez River creates a green oasis in the arid Anatolian landscape, with poplar trees and wild roses growing along its banks. Walking through this peaceful valley, surrounded by towering rock walls decorated with ancient Christian art, provides one of Turkey's most moving spiritual experiences. As our journey through Turkey's hidden wonders comes to an end, we're left with a profound realization. This country isn't just a travel destination. It's a living museum of human civilization, a geological masterpiece, and a spiritual sanctuary all rolled into one extraordinary package. From the fairy tale landscapes of Cappadocia to the healing waters of Pamukkale, from the underground cities that sheltered thousands to the cliff-top monasteries that touched the sky, Turkey reveals itself as a land where the impossible becomes routine and the extraordinary becomes everyday. But perhaps what's most remarkable about these wonders is how they connect us to our shared human story. The underground cities of Cappadocia remind us of humanity's incredible ingenuity in the face of adversity. The thermal springs of Hierapolis show us that the pursuit of health and wellness is as old as civilization itself. The whirling dervishes of Konya demonstrate that the human desire to connect with something greater than ourselves transcends all cultural boundaries. In our modern world of Instagram filters and virtual reality, Turkey's wonders offer something increasingly rare: authentic experiences that can't be replicated or digitized. You can't capture the feeling of floating in a hot air balloon over Cappadocia's fairy Chimneys in a photograph. You can't reproduce the spiritual energy of watching dervishes whirl in Konya through a screen. You can't experience the awe of standing in a 1,600-year-old underground city through virtual reality. These places demand your physical presence, your full attention, and your willingness to be amazed. They remind us that despite all our technological advances, the most profound experiences still come from direct contact with the wonders our ancestors created and the natural forces that shaped our world. Turkey's hidden gems also teach us about the importance of looking beyond the obvious. While millions of tourists crowd into Istanbul's famous attractions, some of the world's most incredible experiences lie just a few hours away, waiting for those curious enough to venture off the beaten path. This is a lesson that applies far beyond travel. The most rewarding discoveries in life often come to those willing to dig deeper, explore further, and question what everyone else accepts as the complete picture. As you plan your own adventures, remember that Turkey's wonders aren't just destinations to check off a list. They're invitations to connect with something larger than yourself. Whether you're floating above Cappadocia at sunrise, soaking in the thermal pools of Pamukkale, or walking through the ancient streets of Ephesus, you're participating in experiences that have moved and inspired humans for thousands of years. In a world that often feels divided and disconnected, Turkey's hidden gems remind us of our shared humanity. The same sense of wonder that drove ancient Christians to carve churches into rock faces, that inspired Sufi mystics to seek the divine through dance, and that motivated kings to build monuments that would outlast empires. That same sense of wonder lives within each of us, waiting to be awakened by experiences that remind us how extraordinary our world truly is. Turkey's hidden wonders are calling. The question isn't whether they're worth discovering. It's whether you're ready to answer that call and experience magic that will change how you see the world forever.